Kara Walker's work deals with history. Embedded in that statement, Kara Walker's dealing with history, is this kind of desire for a hero who can fix this problem of our history and racism. And I don't think that my work is actually effectively dealing with history. I think that my work is kind of subsumed by history or consumed by history.
We want to work from the back forward.
From the back, they lay out 14, 24, 34, 44. Okay.
Nato Thompson from Creative Time, he said, "You have to see this. This place is totally filled with molasses. Molasses on the walls, molasses on the rafters, globs of sugar 50 feet up in the air, just left over from this refining process." It was such a cathedral to industry and such a cathedral to this one commodity. The whole project is predicated on this space being demolished at the end of the run of the show. I had to learn more about sugar in the process of trying to understand this building. Sugar comes from sugar cane. Sugar cane is grown in tropical climates. Sugar cane is and has been harvested by slaves, underpaid workers, and children possibly. It's a fascinating and very long history. I started putting down all of my free association ideas, starting with sugar and molasses. Molasses is a byproduct of the sugar processing. What other byproducts are there? And I got to the end and it was like ruins, it was just the ruins, everything was just in ruins. And I couldn't just produce ruins. In this book I was reading about the history of sugar, contemporaries describe something called a sugar subtlety. I love this term. A subtlety is a sugar sculpture made out of sugar paste, marzipan, fruits and nuts that was, sculpted to portray royalty and only could be consumed by royalty, nobility, clergy. The subtlety presents this opportunity to make a figure that can embrace many themes, that is representative of power in and of itself.
Yeah, the curvature is perfect. Wow. Wow.
I was sort of grasping at too many different ideas that I wanted to bring into the piece.
Like, what don't you want it to look like?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I've never done anything like this before, so I don't really have like a really good opinion, From ruins to the sugar subtlety, that led me to think about what sort of figure and what sort of position would she occupy. I think there was a moment of stepping back and ding, oh, what about a sphinx? It was very subtle, actually. It's not a kind of Egyptophile relic. This is someone from the New World.
Yeah.
I was not at all secure about doing sculpture. This was one of those things that was so out of my league that I hung back during the sculpting process.
We started with a clay model. The model was scanned and digitized and created into a file that could be read by carving robots. It's simply one layer goes on top of the other. You always hear about sculptors liberating the figure from the block. We go back in with the bow wires and basically drag the bow wire across the blocks at angles in order to achieve the curvatures that we're looking for. No matter how incredible robotic carving is, the hand is an element that you can't get away from, and it's beyond the hand. It's not just the hand, it's what's driving the hand.
Yeah, well, some of the material might be underneath it.
We're in the process of doing our first test, so we're still very much in the discovery phase. I've done a lot of smaller tests, some 12-inch figures, but nothing 5 feet tall.
Let's just pick it up and rotate it.
So it's a mixture of corn syrup, sugar, and water, kind of like what you would use to make caramel or lollipops. So we're boiling it up to between 265 and 290 degrees Fahrenheit. We're pouring them into a rubber mold to let them set. So when we demold them, they will be covered in the sugar and water mixture similar to the Sphinx.
I highly recommend a 50-pound bag of sugar for personal therapy, but if you mix it with a couple gallons of water, it's very fun. I mean, it's the most fun I've had since kindergarten, I think, making art. I think it was very important to me to have figures made out of a substance that is so temporal, it's so subject to change. I really recognize what a privilege it is to be working in that space, because I can think of 1,000 other artists who could take on the challenge of that space. I really love the fact of these figures kind of melting and dripping, and they're very much like the interior of the Domino Sugar Factory, which is also still dripping, still producing molasses from its interior, still sort of weeping the substance. The mammy, although she's bent over in this gesture of sort of supplication, I don't feel like she's there to be taken or satisfied or abused in any way. She's sort of withholding. I don't want to make her into a non-sexual caretaker of the city. She's powerful because she is so kind of iconic in a way, and she is so monumental and so unexpected. If I've done the job well, then she gains her power by upsetting expectations one after the other. I think it's very important to look back. I don't think we do it often enough. I think sometimes looking back leads to kind of depression and stasis, which isn't good. But looking forward without any kind of deep historical feeling of connectedness, it's no good either.